There's something undeniably satisfying about chasing down a target and taking them out. Whether it be some kind of high-stakes assassination mission or just a random dude, taking out a target in an open world feels really good. And that's what we're talking about today. Hi folks, it's Mac, and today we have 10 games where you hunt down a target bounty. Okay, so first up, we have Red Dead Redemption 2. Actually, both of the Red Dead games have a bounty system, but it is a little different from some games. In this, your targets only spawn into the world after you accept the mission at the sheriff's office. So it's not like you're just stumbling around and randomly find some dude with a bounty on his head out of the blue. But that said, once you start a bounty mission, how you capture them is up to you. So it's a pretty open sandbox experience outside of needing to accept the contract on the target. And even then, it is a pretty organic process on account of how the missions are structured. How you pick up and return your targets can be a little unsatisfying though, that's the major issue. Like it's just you throwing their ass under the back of a horse and riding back to town. It would have been a little cooler to be able to bring them to justice in some spots, but overall the bounty system in Red Dead Redemption 2 is a ton of fun. All the stories related to the characters are really entertaining, and it's probably one of the best examples of Old West bounty hunting that we have, even if it's not perfect. I mean, damn good game on the whole too. Now at number 9, when you think about open world games with bounties, Mafia 3 probably actually does not even enter your mind. But this game actually has bounty missions. There are actually 3 targets, but that's not what we're highlighting here, because this game actually has this really cool gang dismantling system where you take down all the businesses a gang runs within a district, and then you find their headquarters and boss. They do not exist in the world until you progress through a scripted mission sequence, which is certainly a little limiting, but it's nearly as free as other games when it comes to actually hunting down your targets. It's just an idea that rules, and it's one of the most fun things you do in this game. The gameplay isn't deep, I'll just call a spade there. It's mostly a very straightforward cover shooter, but the biggest problem in Mafia 3 is how much of an empty desert the opening hours are where it goes before the game actually opens up. The whole early game is just a slog. If you stick with it though, the game gets way more fun when you start hunting down the various boss characters all the way up to the big dogs. That's what makes Mafia 3 special. It eventually pays you off for sticking through the early portion of it. But honestly, the opening act should be something that gives you something, if not everything. I don't know, I have a pretty big attention span, but I'm willing to bet there are a fair number of people who dipped out of the game and didn't even really get to the part where you take down the first big gang just because they were done. And at number 8 is Ghost Recon Wildlands, which, if we're being super technical here, they're not actually bounties, as in nobody's paying you to hunt these gangsters down, but this game does have the very fun concept of hunting down and dismantling a lot of gangs under the employ of a big cartel. And like Mafia 3, you have to do sequences of missions to draw out your targets and then eventually take them out. It's a great idea that's meant to hold the game together by giving an actual purpose for playing on a moment-to-moment basis, but taking out these dudes is just pure fun. The targets themselves are rarely all that interesting. Very few of them come off as memorable characters, some of them are barely characters, but the process of opening up and then doing all these missions before going after the big job is satisfying as hell. I mean, is there really such thing as a bad cartel game? There's bad games, I'll just say they don't end up bad because you hunt people down in the cartel. It's just a good idea, unless you're like the cartel, which is not a good idea for you, right? Coming in next is Assassin's Creed Syndicate, kind of keeping with that idea, except for the anti-hero archetype. Instead of a special forces buff or an old-timey gangster, just Assassin's Creed games have always had targets for you to take down. In fact, they're part of the storytelling because they're the linchpin sequence on each sequence, kind of. So our main focus today is going to be on Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which probably has some of the best targets in the series, to be frank, with all these Templar gangsters that you eventually hunt down and take out. And the storytelling is really top tier. How you hunt these dudes down is a little less satisfying, and that it starts with liberating territories until you find their hideouts and then surprise them. And that's where the game really comes into its own, with these big open levels and targets with a variety of vulnerabilities and faults, which allow you to be creative in how you approach them. It's one of those games where it really could have used a little more punch on the standard enemies in the regular sandbox, but it's one of the better late-game Assassin's Creed, and I mean, doing the signature thing is always fun, and it always is. It's just nice when they spice it up. Next on the list, we have Cyberpunk 2077. In Cyberpunk, the bounties appear directly in the world, which actually qualifies them as being slightly more open world. Unfortunately, unlike most every other game on the list, you can't return these guys alive, and the actual combat is super simplified. But these contracts are all over the city. You find them by using your scanner. It marks when they appear nearby. That's all you gotta do. You don't even need to accept them from anybody. Just go over to the target and start shooting. It's a quick and minor distraction, but there are also actual missions you find with rewards and specific enemies to hunt down. When you're driving around and you see a contract appear on the minimap too, that's always pretty satisfying, because you know you're about to get a bunch of money and some loot. It's less interesting content overall because you gotta use your computer to find your bounties, but the process of doing them is fun, and that's the main thing that matters. Although you could kind of expand the area where you fight them, because it's really a pretty small area in the game. For whatever reason, it doesn't really feel big, because the world actually does end up somewhat big. And number 5 is Sniper Elite 5. Actually, almost all of these games are about hunting targets and open-ended objectives. We'll give the nod to the most recent one, which is kind of the best in the series. The World War II setting gives you one of the best sandboxes to murder people in history, and this game, unlike the rest of them, adds these very large and wide-open maps that give you more room to explore and hunt your targets down. The only thing that really keeps it from being truly open world is that it's all level-based. Each map is self-contained, and you can't freely roam around the world like in other shooters, and your character is more really good at sniping than anything else. You're controlling the sniper elite that the game is named after. You're not necessarily meant to do the whole Rambo thing, which is what most open world shooters just end up devolving into. Although, who knows, whenever a new sniper elite game comes out, maybe we'll have full-on support of an entire European town to support our sniping. I have no idea. I'm just saying that'd dope. Next up at number 4 is the Hitman franchise, and I mean, this is both the series as a whole and specifically the most recent games, the World of Assassination trilogy, because these are highly focused games, but they're all about figuring out ways to find and kill your assigned targets, which also happens to be really entertaining. The large, complex, and densely packed maps in these games have tons of opportunities to find targets and trap them, ambush them, or just surprisefully gun them down. Now, these maps aren't as big as levels you'd see in other open world games like Sniper Elite, but they're incredibly dense in a way most games just aren't. Most games you're going to go to a spot, find your mark, take them down. But in Hitman, you're always following NPCs, learning their plans and movements in order to find a way to exploit and kill them. A lot of the challenge comes from when the perfect time is to strike. This franchise is by far the most rock-solid series in this genre. The maps are far from huge, but there's just so much for them that it ends up feeling like much bigger worlds. And each map is worth exploring thoroughly just to see all your options. There's actually also the Freelancer mode, which gives it more of a sandbox vibe. But ultimately, the games are still just really large, mission-based assassinations. That being said, calling it just mission-based assassinations almost makes it feel like it short sells the game a little bit, because I mean, that's what they do better than anything else. Like, if you're gonna buy something based on that, this is the thing to buy. Next on the list at number 3 is Metal Gear Solid 5. The odd yet highly organic sandbox appeal of Metal Gear Solid in this game is a huge sleeper pick when it comes to hunting down targets. It's not the first thing you'd consider when talking about this kind of game, but the information playstyle of scouting and learning enemy patrols in order to find the perfect way to strike is kind of what Metal Gear Solid is all about. And they really push that idea as much as possible with Metal Gear Solid 5, with some of the most exciting and dynamic mission design in the series. The biggest downside of the mission structure in this game is that the main assassination are all mission-based, with the required area being blocked off from the rest of the world. There's not any cases where you have a target freely roaming the world or a mission to take them out with a whole bunch of different approaches. The approaches are there and how you go about executing it. It's a lot of fun. But you know, it's still mission-based. The game never goes full open world, but still does have some of the best, most open-ended gameplay in this genre. And that's why I think Metal Gear Solid 5 certainly deserves a mention here. Coming in next at number 2, let's just call a spade a spade. The first two Saints Row games are totally matched up with the actual Hitman side activity. And while it's not particularly glamorous or epic, interesting or compelling or anything else, there is something pretty nice about the simplicity of the Hitman missions. You're given a name and a location and you go out to look for them. They're not just standing around waiting for you to find them either. These targets are actually roaming around the city somewhere. That means you gotta get your eyes open and hunt them down, which is kind of exciting in this kind of basic way. Most open world assassinations really emphasize the process of the execution, but there's something about these side missions that lives up to the old-timey cinematic depiction of bounty hunting, where you got a photo of a guy on the run, you're contacted by authorities, and you chase him down. There's also some satisfaction in the fact that you can just actively hunt these guys down instead of them doing the patrolling. It feels like there's competition instead of a target, and that's some stakes, at least to some extent. And seriously, some of these are actually pretty easy, and then some of them are monsters. It depends on their location and what personalities you have to contend with while trying to take them down. It's not the most satisfying Hitman mode out there, and I'm not talking about the series Hitman, I'm talking about this Hitman mode, but it does have a vibe, and that's why it's worth mentioning. And finally, at number 1, probably the best fit for this list, it's Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, and its big-budget sequel, Shadow of War. These games are straight-up open-world games about hunting down orcs that are freely roaming around the world, and you take them out in really whatever way you want. The Nemesis system that powers these games makes the process of hunting down and killing these guys just so satisfying, because it's all about approaching the situation in a creative and interesting way, rather than just going all in with the trigger finger or trying to keep things stealthy like a lot of hunting games. Having creative kill methods is one of the main things these games reward you for, and it feels like the payoff is appropriate. It also means that combat's incredibly open and diverse. You never know if your next target is going to suddenly roll up with a posse of suckers and blow you to hell, or beg for mercy the second you face off against them. Every fight has a chance to turn completely random at the drop of the hat with the Nemesis system. Both games are pure distilled open-world chaos. It's just really a target hunting game with one of the most unique and exciting spins on a very played-out genre in video games. I mean, there's not a lot that could beat Shadow of Mordor or its sequel, and that is why it is sitting right here at number 1. And we got a little bonus for you as well. There are other games worth mentioning here. First up, Star Wars Jedi Survivor has a cowboy bounty hunting side mission that has you hunting 16 different bounty hunters at the behest of Kaj Vanda. Another one is Mad Max, which also has a bounty system that plays most notably through tracking down and eliminating specific high-value targets like war parties and other specific enemies found in the open world. And while it's not an explicit bounty system like in some other games, it is a core part of the gameplay where you hunt down powerful and important targets for rewards. And finally, Ghost of Yote has a similar flow with its bounties. Though this is actually a narrative-based hunting, I think the way it delivers the story is what makes this a great addition for this list. There are more than 30 bounties spread across the game's regions, which can be acquired from bounty boards and settlements. And completing these optional quests is a key way to earn money and other rewards. And yeah, I think that's all for now. If you know of other games that have bounties or targets to hunt from an open world or even a mission-based setup, hit us up, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, well, you know the drill. But yeah, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.